Cultural communication competence. We all have different times where we speak to individuals of different cultures. American, we're a culture in ourselves. Today, I'll be contrasting it with those individuals or from the Vietnamese community. Before I started my research, I found a poem that I thought would be appropriate to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about today. And this is a poem by Shel Silverstein, and it's entitled No Different. And it lets us know that we're different, but we are the same. So the poem says, small as a peanut, big as a giant. We're all the same size when we turn off the light. Rich as a sultan, poor as a mice. We're all worth the same when we turn off the light. Red, black, or orange, yellow, or white, we all look the same when we turn off the light. So maybe the way to make everything right is for someone to just reach out and turn out the light. So, how do we bridge the gap between speaking to someone of another culture and being competent or being effective with that communication? What I'm going to help you to understand is that, again, communication styles are different from one culture to another, but we can bridge that gap. It can help to break down or dispel prejudices, as well as communication characteristics that transcend different cultural boundaries. When we talk about in this context of high and low text communication, Westerners or Americans or Europeans, they have a high context way of communicating, which means they use a lot of words. They do a lot of talking, whereas low context communicators, it's just the opposite. Asians, they use what's called ambiguous speech. So they use a lot of illustration, symbols. They don't use a lot of words. So you have to kind of figure out what it is they're trying to say because they don't want to offend anyone. Low text communicators are usually Westerners. You know exactly what they're saying. A lot of times they're direct. So you don't have to guess what it is that they're trying to say. So when we're speaking with those, when we look at President Obama, he was able to bridge that gap because he did a little background research as to how they communicate and what's going to be most effective with them. When we talk about age-related communication with Vietnamese individuals, their communication within their culture is different. When they're speaking to someone that's older, they are more respectful, they bow before speaking or even beginning to speak or even make eye contact. So that's a little bit different, whereas in our culture, when we see people who don't make eye contact, we automatically assume, oh, they have something to hide or they're not confident in their abilities, whereas in the Asian culture, it's just the opposite. It's a sign of respect.
This lesson, we'll be learning how to address someone in Vietnamese. If you're speaking to someone that's around your grandparents' age, that's a female, you would say, if they're a male, you would say, oh.
So in that context, again, when we're speaking with someone older, even male or female, there are different verbiages. And we're not saying to be fluent in Vietnamese, but when we're different or when we're working with different cultures, just to have a few key phrases, perhaps like good morning or good evening, or how we should address a male or a female. When I say silence is golden, with the Vietnamese culture, they believe in silence is best. They understand that you build relationships by listening and not doing a lot of talking. That's done over a period of time. When they communicate, before we conclude, most of their communication is symbolic. In other words, they smile. If you pay them a compliment, they may not necessarily respond, not because they didn't hear you, but they have humility about themselves. Their focus is more on the larger community. They don't like to do a lot of communication where it's just focused on themselves. They want to focus on the entire community. So when you say give them a compliment, they may smile, or even if you offend them for a slight gesture, they may smile, and that's how they symbolize acceptance. So in conclusion, what I wanted to say, the journey to competence is rewarding. It's well worth the journey. We can take the initiative by learning a few key phrases, knowing what's appropriate when we speak to ones who are older, who are younger, who are males, who are females, being aware that there are certain gestures that we use in our culture that are offensive. The thumbs up or the okay sign, those are things that are offensive, or even patting on the back. So making ourselves aware of those small cultural differences will help us to bridge the gap between just communicating and communicating in a manner that's competent. Thank you.
That was interesting.